Hello and welcome to TaxVibe, a podcast of the Tax Institute, where we peel back the layers of the Australian tax world. I'm John Storey, Tax Counsel at the Tax Institute and host of today's episode. Today we'll be exploring the intersection of education, recruitment, and the rapidly evolving nature of technology, particularly AI. I'm joined by the Tax Institute's Director of Learning, Sharon Smulders, and Richard Kennedy, Director of Finance, Accounting and Professional Services at Randstad Australia. Sharon and Richard, welcome to TaxFive.
John.
Thank you, John.
I thought I'd get today's conversation started by telling a little personal anecdote about artificial intelligence. The Tax Institute runs an intern program with Melbourne University, so I get to see a lot of young students who are looking to start a career in law or tax. And I get to talk to them about what uni's like nowadays, their future, and their careers. And a recurring theme that they tell me is concern about AI. One intern told me that if you sit around at the lunchroom and get talking about career in the future, inevitably the discussion will be worried about AI. And the concern is that these graduates, having invested a lot of time and money in their degree, by the time they graduate, there won't be any jobs there for them. Um, are you guys seeing this? Is this something that relates to you as well with the young students and young recruits that you speak to? And what would you say to them?
Well, John, if I start off, sorry, Richard, definitely. I go to a lot of the universities as well, and even amongst our graduates or our candidates, it is a fear, but I think they're realizing that they need to adapt their skills. I mean, when Excel came out the first time, we were all worried it's going to take over, some of the CFO roles and stuff, and all it's been is actually a tool to assist them to improve what they're doing and give them more time to do some of the stuff that they never got to do. And I think that goes back to learning what the skills are that they're going to require to stay relevant in the next 10 to 15 years. And I think that comes back to curiosity and adaptability. They have to be willing to experiment and learn. So, for instance, just learn how to use the AI tools effectively and ethically, but understand the limitations and risks thereof, and know when not to rely on the AI. And I think that comes to my next point, which I think is a critical skill, is the ability to use your professional judgment and critical thinking. And that comes from attempting the problems themselves before going to AI to see if their solutions are correct. Because when your expectations are violated and then corrected, that's where the true learning happens. And that's the deep dive into learning, which I think that a lot of them are going to miss now with AI coming into force. But it goes back to the normal skills that are still going to be required, which is communication skills, which is especially critical in the tax environment where you need to explain complex tax matters to your clients in a way that they can understand it, not being tax professionals themselves. And I think that ability to communicate will build the trust. And that's a very critical element that I think AI can never take away.
I'd absolutely agree, Sharon. Yeah, I think that there is definitely a sense of AI anxiety out there for our candidates, and particularly new graduates coming into the market, having completed their studies, and many interns and students are worried about these tools and the dawn of AI and how will it affect roles in the future and their future roles as well. I guess my advice to people when we're speaking to them on a day-to-day basis is that AI it's not the competitor, but it's actually a really powerful assistant for us to use in any walk in life, whether it's tax accountants or whether it be architects or whether it be recruitment consultants as well. We use it on a day-to-day basis. So, and it can process data. Yeah, absolutely. It can draft documents, absolutely, but it just can't replace the judgment, the ethical oversight and the relationship building that professionals, including tax professionals, can do. Yeah. So I'd say to stay ahead of the game, it's acknowledging the shift, and then understanding the value and that we need to present as humans, as we move away from data entry into actually interpreting the data and presenting good, business partnering case studies for our business partners. So it's an exciting time. Rather than an anxiety causing time, it's an exciting time with embrace and get on board and learn the power of the tools that are available.
Yeah, I definitely think people should look at this optimistically as potentially, if you're a student, you're going to come out with more advanced skills. Because to me,
Oh,
I see that
absolutely.
there are sort of two sort of skill sets that will be at a premium in an AI environment, and they're not necessarily skill sets that you would normally associate with each other. The first one is getting really good at the using AI. If AI is the future, get really good at it. And I know we was circulated an RMIT University study that looked about AI in the workplace, and I'll name and shame myself in these statistics. It says 84% of workers use at least one AI tool, but only 7% have advanced AI literacy. I am totally in that 84%. I do use AI, but I use it as a glorified search engine or to help sharpen up an email or something like that. I don't I don't have the core skills. The other skill, though, I think that it brings to a core is I can certainly imagine that clients that they may very well understand that AI is aiding the research or whatever, but they still want the comfort of a knowledgeable human being to explain it to them. And those sort
Absolutely.
of personal skills, I think, could become even more of a premium. People who can actually um, be the face of the research and explain it to clients. Is that right? Do you think those two, like getting really good at the use of AI, becoming literate in it, but also those human skills?
Spot on, John. I think, learning the different. I mean, I know an individual that uses four different AI tools to do different things and training them in the way that you need them. So the one is for mergers and acquisitions. The other one is for presenting PowerPoints. The other one is for keeping minutes. So it's using the best of all the different tools that will give you the best result and make you work a lot faster. I mean, it's saving so much time if you know how to use it correctly and if you provide the correct prompts, etc. So knowing how to use it is critical, and that's part of our role is to teach our candidates how to use it not only correctly to make it more efficient, but also ethically. I think that's one of the biggest concerns that I'm having, and especially in the tax environment with privacy. Tax information is really personal and private, and should be protected. And a lot of people don't want to share that information with, a AI chatbot or something like that. So it's understanding the risks involved with using it. So by all means, use it, but also be aware of the risks involved in using it and use it ethically and responsibly. But it definitely cannot take away the personal interactions, as you said. It's absolutely critical, and that's where I said that's where you build the trust rapport with your clients. It's you learn to trust somebody working with them more than you just don't get that feeling from AI
Mhm.
chatbot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I would say that from a generational perspective, interns might be worried about AI and the skills that they need to develop. But likewise, John, we prepare a work monitor survey, which is a global, um, it's a global survey which is completed by 1,250 companies and you know hundreds of thousands of people, and the results are quite stark in terms of the adaptation of AI with Gen Z workers. They're currently utilizing and feeling comfortable. 74% of Gen Z are comfortable versus 59% overall of the research. So they're in a good position moving out of studies into the workforce, but it's the human centric skills that will stand people apart as we move into this new chapter of the working world. And it's really the soft skills are now the hard skills that we need to be able to demonstrate, i.e., communication, empathy, complex problem solving skills, and obviously translating the data that's being provided to us now into language that's understood by the business user. So, um, you know, again, it's the shift, it's the continual learning mindset, and it's the development of those interpersonal skills that are required.
The technology seems to be progressing, so
Rapidly.
rapidly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Rapidly, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Even just a couple of years ago, it was I found that AI, it was pretty easy to trick and made pretty obvious mistakes and sort of stuff, but it's getting better and better. So I guess a concern for like a 4-year undergraduate degree is whether it's gonna keep your skills up to date. Because I mean, the technology that was in place when you started your degree, may not be, the same as when you finish. Sharon, how was the Tax Institute's course? How do we keep it up to date for that sort of development?
So we have, like I said, adaptability is important. We specifically on the AI front have a Gen AI action plan that we're implementing. It's also being monitored by Texa. So it is a requirement that we actually do this. So we have a specific Gen AI course that we've developed for our candidates, just providing them with an introduction and getting them used to the field and specifically what is allowed and not allowed. And I think our responsibility to teach the ethical use is a huge responsibility because we've seen in the media releases and all that sort of thing of the problems that can arise when you aren't using AI ethically. So from a profession perspective, we're trying to ensure that all our candidates are or understand how to use Gen AI, whatever form it may be, but also to use it ethically and know the risks involved with doing it. But we still have the obligation to ensure that they understand the technical side of the content. And that's our bigger role, I think, is ensuring that they know what is there. And we update our materials annually. As you know, tax changes constantly. So we have a huge update at the beginning of the year where every single one of our documents in all our 15 courses change. And we update it for a particular income tax year. And then we have 3 study periods per year. So obviously there are changes during the year that affects our assessments, but we issue them with supplementary updates in the subsequent study periods, providing them with the information about the changes to the legislation. And that keeps them abreast of things that are happening. And I think it's important to note that all these changes are being done by industry practitioners. So that ensures that our curriculum reflects both the technical accuracy, but also real world application.
And I'd echo from a recruitment and from a commercial and corporate perspective that learning is continual learning now. When you're out in the working world, we're seeing a massive shift towards modular learning or micro
Mm.
credentials. Yeah, so
Could you maybe just explain that concept of micro credentials, a little bit further?
yeah, absolutely. I think that it's incumbent upon the individual, but also incumbent upon their employer to ensure that you know our employees are as literate as possible within AI, but also within all of the technological advancements. But also that technology is moving so quickly that if we're partaking on courses that are taking months and months and months, that sometimes we can be behind the curve by the time that we've ended the course when we get into the commercial world. So, micro credentials, in essence, are short term courses which keep up to pace with technology. Yeah. And there's also just in time learning as well. So, if we are looking at upskilling on the job for a specific project or for a specific contact or piece of work, which is then a continuous professional development life cycle where employees are no longer um, coming out of university and obviously continuing to learn, but learning in a more short time frame sense, to ensure that their skills are up to speed with the current job market and their requirements.
Richard, if I can add on to that, I mean, I think what's happened is that workers are needing the learning to fit around their work and not necessarily take them away from their work.
Oh yeah,
Most of
absolutely.
our candidates are already employed, so they're constrained by time, costs, family caring responsibilities. So it's hard for the traditional learning models to keep pace with these rapid modern changes. I mean, in a bigger university context, to change a program or the course content could take up to 2 years if you have to go through all the approval processes. Whereas now with the micro credentials, it allows professionals to upskill quickly, but in a targeted areas. So instead of doing a whole big course just to get a little bit out of here that you're actually going to use in your work environment, you now can pick and choose exactly what you're looking for and focus on that and do the 10 hours or whatever it generally is um, by choosing the correct micro credential. And you can apply that learning immediately and you can stay current without actually committing to these lengthy programs to get a certain part of it that you actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, our work monitor survey, it it highlights that from a corporate and a commercial world that we are lagging behind the Gen Z, millennials and people that are leaving university. 72% are seeking continual learning and micro credentials, whereby at this moment in time, the majority of corporates, it's 56% of Gen Z say that their employers are offering them the opportunity to learn as well. So again, it's incumbent on the individual, but also the corporate to, uplift and their offering in terms of continual learning.
I guess where the longer form study, so obviously undergraduate university, but also Sharon, the CTA course that the Tax Institute runs, is that other side of it, that critical thinking that you need to have to be able to work with AI rather than be a slave to it. That feeling that this doesn't feel right, or the ability to check the results of the AI, or whatever it is. So um, uh, maybe I'm overly hopeful, but I think there is still a place for longer form learning, perhaps at a younger age, to develop those core critical thinking skills. Would you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. And I think building a strong foundational knowledge is absolutely key. And you can only develop the problem solving skills once you have that foundational knowledge. And I think that's the part that we're kind of skipping, or AI might force individuals to skip. And that's why I said you have to actually attempt the problem yourself and be corrected to see where you went wrong to actually get the learning experience, because that's what's going to develop your problem solving skills. So you won't pick up there's a problem if you don't understand what the core legislation is saying. And that takes time to learn. So, yes, AI can generate all of that for you, but you're missing that learning opportunity by not getting something wrong and learning where you went wrong. So, there definitely is pace to get the foundational knowledge is, like I said, absolutely core. And it's a lengthy process to get that in the tax environment in any case.
Oh, it's critical. Absolutely. To Sharon's point, it's foundational, core learning. And then when we move into the corporate world, it is then, what are we looking for? We're looking for that core learning. We're absolutely looking for GPAs as well, but we're then looking for candidates that, understand, and have the latest knowledge in field, continual learning, so they can showcase continual learning postgraduate, and and that they have specialized training in the field that they're looking to move into. Yeah, so whether it's a tax accountant within practice, or whether it's tax accountant within a specific profession or specific industry, we'd be looking at the relevant experience together with continual learning, and but also then tech adaptability. Yeah, so being prepared to discuss specific examples of how the individual has used technology to improve processes and to solve problems together with their own personal learnings and experience.
Richard, are employers looking to test these skills during the recruitment phase? Is that something that, um, and if so, how were they looking to test those, or is it more looking at their qualifications and work experience?
There's qualifications, work experience. I don't think we've got to the stage where we're looking at testing as yet, but we are definitely looking at case studies, and individuals that are able to and that are able to articulate projects, programs, change management, situations that they've been through where they've had to utilize and implement. Absolutely. And together with, the professional affiliations as well. So, and by showing that you have a vested interest and that you are bought into, let's say, the Tax Institute, and you're a part of that association, and you're taking micro credentials and they're doing continual learning, and you're also involved in exciting projects in the commercial world, whether it be pre-graduation or post-graduation, it stands you in good stead for your next move.
My son's going through the employment phase, and some of the bigger firms are actually using AI to go through test their skills, which is quite interesting. And So it's getting there. I think the recruitment age, well, the bigger entities, like I said, are using AI to test some of these skills already. So it's getting there. It's definitely getting there.
Yeah. I know AI is being used absolutely to sort through
Yeah.
and pick the candidates in the first instance, but from our client's perspective, AI is there and it's becoming prevalent, definitely.
That's why I'm always very polite to ChatGPT and Copilot in those circumstances. I if I'm rude, I think it's gonna remember me, but, um, I might be biased because, I'm a tax, professional, but tax is it's an extremely complex, area of professional practice, not only, in its technical complexity, but how frequently it changes. So I've always, you know, um, kept myself maybe naively satisfied that of all the professional areas to be replaced by AI, it'll hopefully be the last because it might be the hardest. Sharon, am I being naive? Am I kidding myself, or is that the reality that tax is still a very difficult area to master, and there will be a premium for the young graduates who are willing to try and master it?
John, I was with you in the same thinking. I was also thinking, tax, from our assessment perspective, I think we were safe. We're using real life scenarios because our examiners are tax practitioners. So they out there in the real world, providing real world scenarios in our examinations. But I've been speaking to a lot of individuals in corporates, large listed companies, banks, that sort of thing. And they also said, I was not very good from a tax perspective in the beginning, but it's improving and it's improving at a rapid pace. And I think the scary thing for me though is a lot of individuals are relying on ChatGPT or AI to assist them in their tax matters where they previously would have potentially gone to a tax agent, which is problematic because yes, as you said, John, there are certain things that AI is not there yet, and it's not going to be there for a while. But I'm not saying it's not going to get there. It is very intricate, very complex, but it's managing, it's learning. I think AI learns as we provide all these sort of scenarios, but there again is a privacy element here, and a lot of people don't want to share their personal or business transactions on the internet or using AI. So that could potentially limit the scope. So I still feel I'm with you. I think it's definitely not there yet. But we've got to watch the space. It's frightening, but it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. But again, the fundamental knowledge of tax and the complexity, it cannot cater for everything. I even had AI was great. It gave me the right answer, but it had the incorrect calculation. And I kind of got into an argument with it. And I was trying to be polite because it was not giving me the correct calculation, which I know it knew it was, but it's got stuck in its ways. So yeah, I think individuals need to again exercise caution. We're relying on this. It is getting better, but it's not there yet from a tax perspective. Yes.
Yeah, Richard, how I mean, is tax graduates still highly sought after? At the sort of accountant discussion groups I attend, they're always flat chatting, looking for good staff. Is that still the case for now?
It is still the case for now, absolutely. And to Sharon's point, AI is improving. It's not there yet, but it is improving, and it's paramount that the graduates coming out from tax-based degrees keep up to date and keep contemporary and continue to learn, continue to evolve, be involved with AI as well, and with an air of caution, absolutely. And but yeah, stay ahead of the game. And I think um, you know it's an opportunity for graduates that are comfortable within the AI world that you know there's a mentorship piece, and that mentorship piece is now two-way. That graduates, and Gen Z coming into the workplace that are comfortable and well versed with AI can utilize more experienced professionals from a people skills perspective that we were speaking about earlier. from a stakeholder management, from a people, from an EQ perspective, whereby the generation that are already in the working world can utilize graduates and Gen Z that are comfortable in AI to upskill and learn AI. So it's a two-way street right now, and those skills are absolutely attractive to employers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, there definitely does seem to be a bit of a generational gap between the younger generation that have, been born with an iPhone in their hand, and the older generation who have learned to adapt to it, but aren't as maybe it's quick to pick it up, or is reliant on it. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. A great idea of the experience helping the younger practitioners, but their AI literacy and other
Correct.
skills, they bring that uh, to the party as well. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting way of looking at it. Um, Sharon, is there? Do you where do you see the future of education in the tax space? If you to look forward to the future, how will it evolve? Um, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's going to be an aid. I think it definitely will be an aid to assist tax practitioners in not only running their business or from a business management perspective, but also in applying the tax advice. But again, it comes back to the fact that tax education, I think students need to approach it with a mindset that tax is not about memorization. It's about understanding the principles that led to, the provisions in the legislation, and then being able to apply those principles to real world scenarios. So I see the focus being on building a strong foundational knowledge, as I mentioned before, and developing the problem making skills for individuals coming through. But most importantly, as we've been discussing this whole time, is they have to have a commitment to lifelong learning early, because in tax, the learning never stops. It makes it exciting and ensures employability, but it's something that we need to do. So I think it's going to be a continuous journey, and it's going to change to a certain extent. But I see AI, as Richard said at the beginning, more as an aid than an ultimate tool. And being able to communicate, and there's always going to be a place for human element. And I think that's what a lot of the younger generation are missing, that we can teach. So they can teach us the AI stuff, and we can teach them how to do the communication, which is something I think a lot of them are lacking, because they just haven't had that exposure, COVID and all that sort of stuff included.
You've both been really generous with your time, but if I could maybe just ask you in turn one final question each. Richard, if you could give one piece of advice to graduates looking to enter the workforce at the moment, what would it be?
One piece of advice.
Maybe two.
Just one. Just one. Number one piece of advice would be stay connected and stay current. So, the tax world is a community. And I mentioned the tax institute earlier. Make sure that you're involved with the tax institute, that you're seeking mentorship. And there's that reverse mentorship piece that I've just mentioned a moment ago. Attend industry events, and stay curious about technology. Stay contemporary, stay up to date. It's a changing world. Your craft will be changing as well. So the technical degree that we've been speaking about and Sharon's been speaking about is the foundation, but adaptability is how you'll build your house and how you'll build your career with that solid foundation underneath you.
Yeah, it's amazing in this online world, but old-fashioned networking, human connections, opens a lot of doors.
Absolutely.
It still does, and tax is a pretty small world. Sharon, what's your advice to students, if you could provide one piece
Yeah.
of advice to them
Um,
right now?
be curious and adaptable, as Richard said. I think being curious and putting
Mm.
your hand up, asking questions, never be afraid. And I think a lot of them aren't afraid anymore, but don't be afraid to ask a question. But tax is such an important and exciting area to be in, and it's so broad and vast. So there's so many opportunities in it. It's finding your passion amongst that, and just staying open to ideas, opportunities. If there's any opportunities, Everybody's in the same boat. We're all learning at the same time. But if there is an opportunity, put your hand up. I found an opportunity in one of similar to what the TaxVibe is, and I got to work with the World Bank. So it's looking for these opportunities where you can add input and learn along the way, and they're more than happy to guide you. And I think that's, don't be afraid to learn, but be curious and adapt if you have to, because I think it's going to be continuous adapting and, of course, continuous learning. But it's exciting. So yeah, stay excited.
Well, I don't know if you've calmed the nerves of the uni students or not. Their nerves probably won't be calmed until they're sitting in that corner office,
Yeah, it's exciting. It's
enjoying life.
exciting.
It is.
Richard Kennedy, Sharon Smulders, thank you so much for being on TaxVibe.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Richard.